Okay, this is the situation at the end of the July-August turn 1941. We'll start with the neutrals. America have managed to get their US entry up to such a state that they can now do Lend-Lease to the Soviets, and they're going to use Lend-Lease up through the North Atlantic here into these like Bering Straits and Okhotsk Sea, through to these ports here. They're going to have to extend these convoys down into the Sea of Japan at some point when the winter comes, because ports are all iced out. There's also the option of setting up convoys to Russia via Scandinavia by the seas of north of Scandinavia. Other things, the Americans, they no longer have any deals with Japan. So the part of setting this convoy route up was pulling out all the convoys that used to support the trade deal with Japan. So that's all gone. They've also got rid of the trade deal with Italy, so the American convoys have pulled out of the Mediterranean. Both tension pools are gradually building up, but there's nowhere near enough tension for the United States to declare war against the Japanese or the Germans and Italians at this stage. Now, if we look at the other neutrals, well, I say neutral, they're not really a neutral, they're at war with Japan, but they're not in the main game. You've got China, which has done very little, but there's quite a lot of communist forces building up here, and there's a good chance the communists are going to launch an offensive against the Japanese in northern China. Nationalists are pretty much just sitting there trying to hold what they already got. The Japanese have continued their campaign to capture Netherlands East Indies. They've crossed over into Sumatra here. They've gained control of the oil resources in Borneo, and also established convoy routes sufficient to take those oil resources to the mainland in Japan. There's quite a few little ports you have to take to completely conquer the Netherlands East Indies. So that's going to take some time. That's going to delay the Japanese declaration of war on the Commonwealth. There's plenty of naval units and quite a few air units now in the Netherlands East Indies. They should be able to just knock out these remaining sort of ports, resource hexes and cities this turn, in theory. Right, in terms of the Commonwealth engaged in the largest naval battle ever in the Eastern Med, which really turned out as a draw. The Italians lost 2 heavy cruisers, the British lost 1 heavy cruiser. The Italian battleship was damaged. A British battleship and a cruiser were damaged, and there was a couple of ships aborted. The Italians basically decided they didn't want a second round because the Commonwealth fleets were too strong. Otherwise, the Commonwealth Army has completely smashed up what was left of the Italian army in Libya, and got them surrounded at Tobruk here. Now, the Italians were trying to bring stuff to Tobruk, but because of the naval battles that have been going on, they never really managed to get any transports to Tobruk. And they're in danger really here. They've got some aircraft across here, but they're in danger of losing the whole of North Africa if they're not careful. Just a couple of units that haven't been flicked back onto the correct side. Just ignore me for a second. Another one there. One here. Okay. Other things that have been going on, the British move more heavy cruisers from the Asian map through to portside there. They're also considering moving some battleships from the North Atlantic, well, really what is the North Sea areas, to the Mediterranean, so they can really knock the Italian Navy out if they can. Not a great deal more has been going on in terms of the Commonwealth. Now, oh yeah, the Commonwealth did launch some strategic bombing operations against Dortmund, but they failed to achieve anything. In terms of the Italians have still been fighting with the help of the Germans in Yugoslavia. So they're gradually conquering Yugoslavia, but there is still one place holding out there, and there are actually Yugoslav units coming out of the reinforcement system there, as well as they're getting cadre replacements because they're losing corps inside their own territory. The Greeks have just about had it. The Italians finally broke through, and they should. I don't think there's anything in Athens now. It's just naval units, so Greece will fall fairly quickly. I don't know about this. The Crete. I'll have to look into Crete, because if you can't conquer Greece unless you take Crete, Crete and this Kefalonia here, you might not be able to conquer Greece. We shall see. No, we'll just leave that. I'll talk about that later. What else have we got? Right, it's the big one. Germany's in the process of attacking the Soviet Union. Barbarossa's gone ahead. They've used a lot of offensive points. They've used multi-type impulses, like an air and a land one together. They've used HQ benefits 3 times as well. They punched through most of the Soviet first line of defence. As you can see, Soviets they've picked up a lot of reserve units that came in as soon as Germany invaded. So the Soviets are reeling, but they're not completely knackered. They took a lot of losses here, all these cadre losses here, but those cadre losses, they'll provide BPs in the production phase, which I haven't done yet for this month. Germans, pretty much as I've described, they've been trying to batter their way into the Soviet Union. So again, there's a few units that haven't been turned over the correct way. I'll sort them out in a minute. So the war is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's all in the balance at the moment. I still think that the odds are against the Axis. Now, they might be able to knock Russia out. If they don't knock Russia out by the end of by the middle of 1942, I think they've had it. But it all depends. They might be lucky, and they might not.